Alright everyone, welcome back to some more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're finally starting off on part 3 of the trial, and we're going to see how that goes. So I hope you all continue to enjoy watching, and let's do this. 17th of April, 1:41 p.m., the Old Bailey Courtroom. I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Van Zeeks, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness? The subpoena was delivered to the communication station where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem. I see. Then let us turn our attention to Inspector Gregson's presses of the case heard by the court this morning. The glaring omission of the third bullet in your report is a serious blunder, Inspector. Yes, I can only apologize, my lord. And although the defense's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my courtroom. Heh, it's a big mistake to cross Hurley and me. A very big mistake. My lord, the subpoenaed witness has arrived in the building. Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay. Mr. Egbert Benedict, or aka blank blank blank, his real name. I didn't expect to be crossing paths with him again so soon, and certainly not like this. Thank you for complying with the court subpoena at such short notice, sir. But of course, my lord, as an upstanding member of London society, it is my pleasure to oblige. Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record. Ashley Graydon, Communications Officer. Wow. Far reach from Egbert Benedict. Mr. Graydon and I both work at London's Central Communication Station. Now, perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about. You were apprised of the situation by the court officer on your way here, I presume. Yes, I was. Something to do with a murder that took place at a pawnbroker's on Baker Street. And some nonsense about me having been there on the night in question. That is the accusation indeed. This really is beyond the joke, you know? Very well, without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath. Now here we go. Gladly, my lord. Gladly. Oh, here's his testimony. The accusation. Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbroking services from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation, even if a certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene. Some scaramount detective's homebrewed tincture can hardly be taken as serious evidence. No lie, I almost could not read like a couple of these new words of theirs. So you deny the accusation completely, do you? I must say I am dismayed. For the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy. It was the will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands that the jury's will be upheld. Then it would seem we have the misfortune of a most inept assembly of jurors today. Now, is it wise to mock and patronize the jurors? By golly. How long am I expected to be detained here? If, following the defense cross-examination, your involvement in this matter has not been established, you will be free to leave immediately. Good. Then I shall be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation at least. Let us not hold up Mr. Graydon any longer than necessary, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination. So, we meet again, Mr. Egbert Benedict. Or is it Mr. Graydon? My apologies, you are? Oh, you're gonna play that game, huh? Leonosuke Naruhodo defense lawyer. We have met. If you say so, Ashley Graydon, enchant. So, really? I trust we can conclude this quickly. But I'm not holding your flashy hat while we do. Alright, go time, guys. Naturally, I have the occasion to make use of pawnbroking services from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation, even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene. And I'm pressing that bad boy. Hold it! Blood was found at the scene of the crime. There's no question of that. Mr. Shum's chemical analysis has positively identified the substance as such. But I am not the only human to have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be sure that blood is mine? It could equally be the blood of one of these two miscreants. Every individual's blood has slightly different composition, it seems. Mr. Shums, spare me the science lesson. Who is this Shum's character anyway? Oh. I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a renowned detective. So even you are unable to bring yourself to say great detective. A great detective, you say? Now we're in the realm of fairy tales, are we? Yup, and someone just had an odd reaction. Let's check that out, shall we? Oh, wrong one. Hey there, buddy. Excuse me! Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin? What, me? No, the Mr. Skulkin next to you. Right, I've had it up to here with this. How many times have I got to tell you? Yes, I know, you're not big bruv sulky. Mr. Nash Skulkin. Yeah, go blimey, governor. What? Isn't that the case that when Mr. Graydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court? My thoughts? I don't have none of them. It must have been him. What? Mr. Nash Skulkin, answer the question, please. What went through your mind when Mr. Graydon just spoke? Nothing. Honest God, nothing. I was just thinking. If we waves his arm around like that much more, it'll open up the wound again, that's all. What wound? Where he took the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. It ain't gonna be healed up yet. So I was, well, you know, I was worried for him and... Oh, L's bells. Mr. Graydon, did you hear that? What? Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm. My lord? Yes, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these two wretches are talking about. Certainly, I shouldn't be expected to answer anything in relation to their mindless insinuations. We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet in the scene of the crime 2 nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole in the wall, that person was likely hit in the upper arm or thereabouts. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir? The left arm that you're currently clasping with your right hand as if in pain? No, I refuse. You have shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Accordingly, I am not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy. Someone's in denial. Protest too much, huh? As I've already said, I'm completely uninvolved in all this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery where this fellow was killed whatsoever. I take offense at the insinuation that I was in any way involved. Well, if you take so much offense, you could just prove me wrong and let an official examine that arm of yours. But whatever. You claim to have had nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Windibank's pawnbrokery? My lord, the defense would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony. Very well, counsel. Continue with your testimony, Mr. Grayson. I was gonna say Mr. Grayson. The bottom line is, I've never had anything to do with the pawnbroking establishment where the man was killed. That's all he's gonna say on the matter, is it? What do you think, Reno? I think he has no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware that the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away. The complete opposite of Hurley then. He seems to think that the more he says, the better. Well, at least I managed to prise a little more information from these witnesses' lips. All thanks to the Skulkin brothers. Yes, they were the key to it after all. So he says he had nothing to do with Windibanks. Well, we know that's not true. Perhaps now would be a good time to have a proper look through the court record. Good idea. You never know what tiny scrap of information could become a valuable weapon. Alright. Naturally, okay. But you're just suggesting. Have no intention. Some scare him out. The bottom line is I've never had anything to do with the pawnbroking establishment where the man was killed. I am pressing that, brother. Hold it! Never had anything to do with it. You forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident. Obviously, I am not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I'm currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study. Objection! No, you were there to redeem an article.
Is that
I have
right?
no idea what you're talking about. Oh, I think my friend next to you does. Excuse me! Do you have something to add, Inspector? Come again, Sunshine? You were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector, that afternoon? Well, yes, I do remember meeting yourself in the pawnbrokers that afternoon. You, your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present, as I recall. And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article. Well, now... I'm afraid I don't remember too clearly. Gregson! Greggy! Why? What? But... You must... I'm not gonna lie and pretend I remember something that I don't. What's going on here? Gregson showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, from the cameras that Hurley installed in Windibanks? Yes, of course. Indeed, and the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say. Exactly, which proves that Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question. At no point have I denied that fact. I merely entered the shop to peruse the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more. This makes no sense. I understand why Mr. Graydon might be trying to cover his tracks. But why would Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? That's all he's gonna say on the matter, is it? What do you think, Reno? Alright, we're back to doing this again. Alright, go through this again. They want me to use the court record. Okay. Naturally. Some scare them out. The bottom line is I had nothing to do with the pawnbroking establishment with the mouse. No. Alright, time to use that. Come on. No. Where is that? Where is it? Here we go. Nope. This one. And... Objection! Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon? Why? Is it supposed to mean something? This disc was, until the day of his murder, in pawn in Mr. Windibank's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try to take it from her. And that somebody was you, of course, wasn't it, Mr. Graydon? As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. I've never seen that disc before in my life. It may have escaped your notice, but there is a small smear of blood on the disc. Ah, yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps. That's right. The surface of the disc is covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. So, while the disc bears the remnants of that skirmish in the form of this smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear the remnants also, in the form of a scratch. Good gracious, indeed it must! Mr. Graydon, you refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before. Are you now going to refuse to allow us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch consistent with the smear of blood on this disc. Well, well. It would seem I underestimated you. What is the meaning of this? So you admit it now? You admit you have a scratch on your thumb? When you attempted to take the disc from the defendant? Order, order! Well, Mr. Graydon? It would appear there has been something of a misunderstanding here. I did not attempt to take the disc, as you put it. No, quite the reverse. What are you trying to say? It's really quite simple, you see. The disc was mine from the outset. Is there some crime in taking an item that you own out of pawn? What? It would seem, Mr. Graydon, that in this piece of evidence my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc now. As you wish, though I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder. Up here we go again. The disc. There's a note on the disc saying from Gilded, but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night. Did I hear you correctly, sir? McGilded, you say, the famous London philanthropist? Who perished in this very courtroom 2 months ago after being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder? Yes, my lord, the one and the same. Good lord, Mr. Graydon. Are you saying that Mr. McGilded and yourself are acquainted? Yes, that's correct. Order! Well, I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again. According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in the pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. McGilded himself gave instructions to deposit it at Windibanks. It's funny that Mr. Graydon here is claiming the disc belongs to him then, isn't it? In all likelihood, he's lying. So he appeared that afternoon at Windibanks in order to get his hands on McGilded's disc for some reason. Counsel, you will commence your cross-examination, please. Oh, will do. Let's go. There's a note on the disc saying from McGilded, but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. Hold it! Yes, it was taken by Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it? That's right. This was the very man. Apparently the police are collecting anything that has connection to to Mr. McGilded as evidence. And now, what have you got to say, good sir? Excuse me! There's something wrong, Inspector? What do you mean? The last remark Mr. Graydon made in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way. No it didn't. It's nothing. Leave it alone. Let me ask you this, Inspector. Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilda's possessions? I can't tell you something like that, Sunshine. What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets? Yes, exactly. You should all know about that. Magnus McGilded, who died so unexpectedly after his trial 2 months ago. A man renowned throughout the capital for his great contributions to public life, yet he had a dark side too. Where are you going with this, Van Zeeks? I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they? That's enough. Coppers like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know. Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume. The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector. The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Lord Strongheart's paw print first. What's all this about? It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Van Zeeks here. Well, it would appear that the Inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Graydon, let us return to your testimony. Gladly, my lord. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night. Alright, I think... Hold on a second. Yeah, there's a ticket thing here. Hold on. There's the code. And there should be... Hold on a second. No. Nope. The stereoscope. Nope. Ah, there you go. Pawnbroker's ticket box. Objection! This disc was deposited at Windibanks on Magnus McGilda's instructions. You knew that, and you went there with the intention of obtaining it for yourself.
Objection!
Conjecture again, and in any case, the disc was taken into custody by the police that afternoon. The witness had no reason to visit the pawnbrokery again that night. Objection! Sorry, my learned friend, but that's not true. Oh, the tables have turned. What? Mr. McGilda had another article on pawn at Windibanks. As this second pawnbroker's ticket proves. Ugh. There were 2 articles belonging to Mr. McGilda in Windibanks pawnbrokery, and the reason you broke into the shop that night was to recover the second one. Together with your 2 accomplices, the Skokin brothers. This is the second ticket, is it? What had the man deposited? The article description reads, 1 small box. A rather vague description, it seems to me. Are you suggesting that I broke into the pawnbrokery with these clowns in order to steal some trinket box? I believe there are adequate grounds to suspect that you did. This is absurd. Why on earth would I do such a thing? Once the article had been forfeited, I could simply walk into the shop and purchase it. There would be absolutely no need for me to resort to theft. That's a good point. Indeed. The witness makes a solid argument. So that means that for some reason, this Graydon fellow needed the small box that very night, does it?
Objection!
It's time to put an end to this nonsense, my lord. Could you be a little less cryptic, Lord Van Zeeks? I do hate to ruin my learned friend's argument, but the truth is quite incontrovertible. On the night in question, no small box was taken from the Windibanks pawnbrokery. And rest assured, the prosecution can prove it. What? Good gracious! Inspector, show the photographic prints to the court, if you please. Yes, sir. What prints? These prints were taken from one of the detective's security cameras. Ah, Hurley's red-handed recorders again. As previously explained using this plan of the shop layout, the victim's establishment was furnished with automatic cameras in 2 locations. One was set to capture the counter where Mr. Windibank received his customers, and the other was set to capture the shelves on which articles were placed for sale once forfeited. According to the information on this ticket, McGilded's small box had been forfeited already, 2 days before the incident at 9 p.m. on the 13th of April to be precise, which means it would have been on the shelves of forfeited items in the shop front. Now, what I have here is a print taken by one of the cameras about 2 hours before the incident. That's at 11 p.m. on the 15th of April. The victim certainly had a very full shop, it would appear. And then, here we have another print. This one was taken about 2 hours after the incident. I see, so we have 2 pictures to compare. Though I must say that placing them side by side leaves me cold. We're gonna need the stereoscope for this one now. Dear me, that's starting to make my head ache. Obviously, at Scotland Yard, we consider theft as one possible motive in this case. We explored the possibility that something had been taken in addition to the victim's life. So your men have already compared these 2 prints thoroughly, Inspector? Yes, sir. We counted every single item in each of these 2 photographic prints. And the Yard's conclusion is that exactly the same number are present in both. In other words, nothing was taken from the pawnbrokery on the night in question. And my learned friend's assertion is nothing more than a hopeful fantasy. Gah! I don't believe it. If I could have just shown that he'd stolen McGilded's pawn box, I might have been able to break him down at last. You know what, Runo? I've been thinking. I wonder if these 2 photographs really are exactly the same. Exactly my point. What? So, counsel, in the light of evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems that, in fact, on the night in question, nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion? Ah ha 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 ha. No. I don't know. Could there be some hidden discrepancy in these 2 photographic prints somewhere? Yes. Before I give my answer, my lord, I'd like to try something if I may. Try something? What do you mean, counsel? I'll need to use a certain piece of evidence from the court record to identify the discrepancy. I'm not entirely sure I follow. What piece of evidence do you intend to use to help you identify the discrepancy between the 2 prints? I know which one. The stereoscope. Take that! I'd like to use this device, my lord, to view the 2 prints stereoscopically. Ooh! Yes, you've caught the bug at last. You can't resist it, can you? You've got the cross-eyed compulsion. Juror number 3? What a surprise. Come on, Runo. Let's put the pictures in place and see what this wonderful contraption shows us. There we go. Now, look through the eyepiece. Oh, wow, look at that. I wasn't sure at first, but there is a clear discrepancy between the 2 prints. What? You must identify the location in question for the court, counsel. Indicate the precise location of the discrepancy which you speak. Ah, okay. And away we go. Take that! Granted, these 2 prints are almost identical. However, there is one minor discrepancy between them. What? When you view the 2 pictures stereoscopically, a single area stands out as being different, the location of this small box. Oh, guys, look at that! Oh, alright guys, I'm gonna have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching.
When we come back, we're gonna put an end to this part of the court, I assume. Trial, not court. We are in court. But anyways, thank you all for watching. Until the next one.